what this thing is for. Oh, please, 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 please be on the right page. Oh, tell me this. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, we're live now. This is getting weirder and weirder with starting the shows because we have the stream keeps kicking off not where it's supposed to. It pops out under its own banner, not where we've got it set up. But I think we have the right landing page. So Josh has it best. I gotta have him teach me how to do the little musical intro because it gives you a chance to know that you are live out there. But let's give everybody a minute to come in here.
This is getting weirder and weirder.
There you go. I got that. Now you can hear my playbacks. I'm getting the tweet ready. But we've got
it's not as easy to produce as people think while you're on the show as well.
No, it gets to be a little tricky. But let's get this into Slack. We have MMA today, NASCAR tonight. You've got golf. They have second, not second round. What do you call it? Back nine contests.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Now you have second half and fourth quarter NBA contests. NBA playoffs start today. Hockey's in day 4 of playoffs. It's just this is a busy day. I keep waiting for things to ratchet back, Jake, but they don't. It just keeps coming.
Yeah, we've got a couple weeks of this for sure. Until the NHL and MLB, or not MLB, MLB's in full swing, until the NBA and NHL slates start to slow down a little bit, but then you're still going to have golf. You're still going to have MLB and multi-slate days, like 3 or 4 days a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So yeah, it's just a busy time, but this is what we do it for, right?
Absolutely. It's fun. I was telling you pre-show, I had like the worst night in weeks, literal weeks, which is a good feeling. But it's not a good feeling when you end up with the results. But I lost about 90% of my MLB buy-in, about 90% of my hockey buy-in, and that hasn't happened in a long time. Especially with the mass multi-entry, even in basketball, the way I build my lineups now, I usually don't lose more than like a bad night. Or if you have a late scratch, you lose like 70% at the most, and that rarely happens. Now you may not have a profitable night for 5 in a row, but you're only losing, 20 or 30%. That's not, you can recover from that on one, even just marginally decent night. So it's a different mindset here. But for those of you playing the Masters, the 6 of 6 through the field, through the cut line was about 45% in the Millionaire Maker. Yeah. So that was, I guess, not to be completely unexpected. It caught me off guard. I thought it would be in the low to mid 30s. So, it wasn't dramatically higher. But when you think about the fact that it's a smaller field and you can eliminate, 15 or 20 of the guys from most people's player pool because, they're ancient, like Fred Couples, which, by the way, I like Freddie Couples, but they, are bad players. They're on prior winner exemptions, etc. So it's one of those ones where things have come down. But I think Couples, he's like made like 6 of the last 8 cuts or something like that. As long as his back holds up, he's, the savvy duffer these days that just kind of goes straight down the course while everybody's, off in the rough or doing whatever.
For sure.
But slow.
Always good to see the older guys making some runs, I think.
Let's see. Oh, Brett Murphy, shout out to us. He's been following for a while. So good. Glad to have you. But let's get going here, Jake. We have a mega schedule here. We're going to go game by game through everything, and we do have starting lineups for let's see, the majority of the early games. I haven't hit refresh, but I can already see about 8 notifications. So we have starting lineups up until the 3 and 4 o'clock games. So that is good. So we're going to go off first here with the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox. And Jake, this implied run total for Boston, every time I hit refresh, it goes up by 0.1.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's at 6.9. This game is in Boston. No, it's not in Coors Field. It's going to be 64 today, and you've got you do have an 8 to 10 mile an hour wind blowing out the center. Okay, well, those are all favorable things. You also have Andrew Kashner, who is in the mix here, and we like to call him Andrew Trashner. But we're gonna have a little fun here, Jake, because I don't think we did this on the last show. But if we look at Kashner now, let's consider a blow up 5 or more runs. Okay, does that seems fair? So this year he has 3 starts. He's given up more than 5 runs once, and he gave up 3 home runs. Now 2 of them came in the last start, but he only gave up 4 runs in that start. In 2018, so last year, he made 28 starts. How many times do you think he gave up more than 5 runs?
28 starts?
28 starts.
I know it's less than what people would think. 5 runs, I would say 8 times.
6 times.
6
so
times.
Not even 1 in 4. In 2017, he also made 28 starts. Now, this just was a year where he was in Texas, and he lucked into a good ERA, but he had 28 starts. Only 4 times did he give up more than 5 runs, and he only gave up 15 home runs that year. The year prior to that was split between Miami and San Diego, 28 starts, just 5 with more than 5 earned runs. And then back in San Diego, that year where they were trying to make the splash, I think that was that year with Kemp and what's his name? Upton Jr., and they were pitching to contact and challenging hitters. He had a 7 games out of 31 where he gave up more than 5 runs. So not even a quarter of the time, less than 20% of his starts does he allow 5 runs. Now, this year, I don't care because he's got the Baltimore Orioles bullpen behind him who are taxed to hell because they really don't have any good starters, and they've been doing about every 4th day or so sort of a bullpen game, and their guys are just looking gassed. So that, I think, is contributing to Boston having that massive total, and the fact that they're a veritable all-star lineup. But just pointing out there that Kashner is not Trashner nearly as often as we think. I did the same thing yesterday with Josh talking about Wade Miley, and it's similar numbers. Less than a quarter of a time, he gives up more than 5 runs. You're like, whoa, how is that even possible? But it is.
It's he's a guy that you would think he gets blown up way more than he does just because of how bad his season-long numbers are. If you just look at the last few seasons, the ERA is terrible, the xFIP, all that stuff. It looks really bad, but he really does a decent job of spreading it out between the starts for the most part. I mean, every pitcher is going to have a blow up now and then. Even some of these studs, like Blake Snell, might have a blow up at some point this year. Maybe Snell will have one. But it just depends on ownership with the stacks against him, honestly. And against Boston, they are going to be major shock, at least according to our ownership projections, which I, of course, put a lot of stock into. And they're, I think, probably the best tool on the site and maybe one of the best tools in the industry, I think. We're projecting for a lot of ownership on Boston. The question is, can Kashner just hold just enough to kind of not make Boston the best stack on the day? And I honestly don't know if he can. There's just so many good hitters here. I have a hard time imagining a scenario in which more than a few of these Boston hitters disappoint. So whether it's 3-mans or 4-mans, I think I'm just going to end up playing a ton of Boston and trying to differentiate my lineups elsewhere.
And that's kind of where I'm landing on this as well. And if you want the specific Boston guys, literally their top 7, mix and match and enjoy. There's really nothing to dive in more than that. They're all relatively appropriately priced, and we're not going to be alone on this. So, as Jake pointed out, look to other potential areas where you can find a little bit of differentiation.
And the thing, I think this slate kind of is going to be decided by Boston bats and then maybe Yankees bats and Snell. Well, it's not one or the other, which is the crazy part. You can easily fit in Snell with different sort of Boston stacks if you use one of the 7, 8, or 9 hitters. It's really not difficult at all with some of this pricing. So they're not mutually exclusive, and for that reason, I'm just going to try to play the best projected lineups, but also differentiate, like I said, whether it's with 2-mans or 3-mans elsewhere, with still playing Boston.
All right, and then we do have. I'm going to drop this in the premium or the YouTube chat here. We've got this new thing that we're putting free in front of the paywall for the time being, but this is something that Alex and Tom have put together and developed, and it's going over the stacks and how they're related to the field. So we actually had a call yesterday talking about this, and what you want to look at is that first column there. That's the percentage of the chance that the stack will be the top stack of the day. Now, if you add up all those numbers, that's out of 100. So Oakland has a 12% chance of being the best stack. Boston has an 11%. The next column is ownership. Same thing. This is out of 100, but looking at the field, and again, this is the full slate. But right now, you've got Texas as being 10% if you were to play on an all-day slate. And then
Is this from today?
This is from, is it from today?
I think it's from yesterday.
Oh, it is from yesterday. All right. Well,
yeah, because I think we'd see a much bigger
I was going to say that's weird. But,
ownership share for Boston.
Well, just know that that'll be updated. When we get to the main slate, that's when we'll talk about it more on the show. But anyway, so basically what they're showing is who's going to have the most ownership. Now, this counts all batters, because I was asking, well, would you just count the top 4 owned? Do you count whatever? And they're saying, no, this is all batters on a particular team. And they've got some formula stuff going on behind the scenes to account for 4-mans and 3-mans and whatever stacks. Then you also have the chance of that lineup being the most bang for your buck value wise.
Top value,
yeah. And those are all out of 100%. So think of it as a pie, and then whoever has the larger shares is either the better option or will be the more popular option. But that's kind of something that we started putting out on Monday or Tuesday. So I'm still getting used to looking at that. But I think that's going to be a fun one to view going forward. Sorry, but back to this game. Now we'll hone in here. We've got Rick Porcello, who's been, kind of a whole lot of but he's going against a team that really only has 2.5 hitters that we should worry about. Jonathan VR, Trey Mancini, and then I guess you could cobble together half from Dennis Smith Jr. and Nunez, who are batting 3rd and 4th. Now, the second 2 guys don't have a ton of track record here, but they are in a decent lineup spot going against Rick Porcello. They're making a complimentary stack. Last night I ended up with a lot of Baltimore stacks, which I think we were talking pre-show. I think that was probably where there was a hole in my crunch, because I was only getting like 3% Eddie Eduardo Rodriguez. So yeah, I think now that you mentioned that, I remember looking at that before the tears covered my eyes and I couldn't see the computer screen anymore. But what do you like here from Baltimore, if anything?
From the hitting perspective?
Yes.
I mean, I like targeting guys against Porcello. I think those guys in general have been underowned, especially last season against him. So, Chris Davis is at 2,200. Do whatever you want with that. If he fits into your lineup, like, he's going to get a hit at some point, and it's a good chance it's going to be a home run. He still is hitting the ball hard when he puts it in play. And Porcello is not missing bats right now. Under 20% chase rate his first couple starts. I know it's a small sample, but 7% swinging strike rate. And it's always been my beef with him, is he just doesn't really miss bats at the rate you would expect for a former Cy Young winner. If he's getting ahead of these guys, he's going to be able to get some strikeouts, but I'd rather go with like a Dwight Smith, Nunez. I think you mentioned him, and then Mancini. So I like 2, 3, 4 a little bit. VR's prices come up. I don't think Baltimore is going to be super popular. Let me check on that, actually.
No,
they're not.
And this is where I'm getting confused, because chat's saying there's BVP. There's not. He's 10 for 50 with a couple home runs. Although compared to what he's done now, hitting 200 would be an accomplishment.
Yeah,
I think you're seeing him in a lot of these lineups. He's 20% right now on FanDuel, but remember, you get a first baseman / catcher spot plus the utility. He's 500. That's getting you Snell, and it's getting you the Boston bats that you want, because you're not foregoing anything. And then on DK, he's 7%. He's 2,200 over there, and that if you got to burn your first base slot, but that means you're just giving up on Moreland, or if you're not going to Boyd or whoever's in the lineup for New York. So I don't think he's overly owned. So not sure what you guys are looking at. You got to look at the real stuff behind the paywall, the Osmo stuff. So promo code today you can use live before lock, but that'll get you 50% off any 1-month package. Cossack, we're looking forward to having you in the Slack chat there. What do you got here as we wind on out? Anything else? We did want to spend more time on this game, because for the love of Pete, it's 11.5. implied run total.
Yeah. Nothing. I just think both teams are in play. Obviously Boston, but I don't think Baltimore is that bad. I mean, they do have some power at the top of this lineup, and then Porcello's not really a guy I love. So I'm not playing a ton of Porcello. At least I don't intend to, and I'm not really getting him on my crunches. So yeah, it's going to be some Baltimore hitters, especially like 2 and 3 man stacks. It's the same hitting weather for them, and I think they are going to be able to at least put balls in play against Porcello.
Oh, they're pointing out to me that it's just the first 4 games on FanDuel. Sorry, guys, I was looking at DK and Yahoo today. So, okay, so that takes the Snell part out of the equation for the Davis half.
Oh, but,
okay. Which, yeah, now it's like 20%. Well, he's cheap, so it's not getting Snell, but you're getting Boston or New York or
right.
A 4-3 stack with Chris Davis in your utility spot from that team. Speaking of which, let's get on here to Chicago and New York. We have, let's see, we have me closing the wrong tabs constantly. You've got CC Sabathia that is going to be taking the bump here, making his first start of the season for New York. On the other side, you've got Ivan Nova, who will be making his 3rd start. Key thing you want to know about Ivan Nova is that his all of his pitches basically are down 1.3 to 1.7 miles per hour based on where they were in March and April of the last 2 or 3 seasons going back. So, and it's across the board this year. It's not just one pitch. So that is a little concerning. He's got 10 years mileage on his arm, and he doesn't strike guys out pretty much at all, which is going to be not a good situation for the Yankees here. Now, I'm gonna read a potential team here for you, Jake. Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, Aaron Hicks, Didi Gregorius, Troy Tulowitzki, Jacoby Ellsbury, and Miguel Andujar. Those guys are all on the DL, yet the Yankees are still managing to post a 6 implied run total today. So, wow, the rich are still rich, I guess.
Yeah, no kidding. What a lineup that's going to be when those guys all get healthy, and it's already a good-looking lineup right now. So this is it looks like the 2nd highest owned stack on the early on DK, or maybe 3rd. It looks like the Pirates might actually be pretty chalky against Anibal, but they would be my 2nd behind Boston. 6 implied total, decent hitting weather for this time of year. And then a guy like Nova, who already struggles missing bats, and now, like you mentioned, his velocity down a little bit. That seems pretty bad going up against these top 5 or 6 hitters. I honestly don't know much about Tuckman, or I know Higashioka does have power, I believe. And I'm blanking on Tyler Wade. So it's going to be mostly top 6. Those guys in some of my Yankee stacks, those bottom 3 might sneak into a couple. But yeah, I'm just focusing mostly on these top 6, especially. I really like Greg Bird at 3,900 here.
Let's see, in his last 70 at bats, Wade has just against righties, and he is a lefty. He just has a 100 isolated power. He strikes out 31% of the time. He is just not performing that well, and he hits a boatload of ground balls. So, let's see, 63% ground balls through those 70 plate appearances. So, I don't think we're missing out on anything with him, but anyway, he's batting 9th, as you mentioned. But yeah, this is focusing on that first 4 or 5, I think, is the way to go. But that's another eye-popping run total there today. I mean, think about that. It's not the middle of summer. We're not talking about Arlington at 110 at first pitch. We're not talking Coors. We're not talking wind blowing out of Wrigley at 20 miles an hour. We're not talking about at the Great American Ballpark. Yet we already have 2 games or 2 teams that have implied run totals of 6 today. Yikes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What's happening with pitching? Looking to the White Sox, they're going to be going against Sabathia. He is, winding down a long and illustrious career. The guys that we would be concerned about would be Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, and then it is lefty for Yonder Alonso, but he does have the ability to run into one, as does Eloy Jimenez. He's batting 6th today, and then Beef Castillo. I was hoping he'd get the cleanup spot, but he's batting 7th. I still like him. He's reasonably priced across the board. 3,400 on DK. Very, very nice because we've been seeing their catchers been priced in like the 37 to 4,400 range. Now seeing some guys dip down a little bit is just a skosh more helpful with that. But I still like Castillo in this one as a one-off or as part of a stack going against Sabathia. Do you want to embrace the White Sox power hitters here?
As one-offs or mini stacks, I like the idea of targeting some righties against Sabathia, but just the bullpen really worries me with the Yankees. So that's my only concern is that they might see 4 innings of this Yankees bullpen. Abreu is actually my favorite for 4,400. I just think that's a really good price for a guy that crushes lefties. And then I like Castillo as well at the catcher position. I know he's in the 7 hole, but 3,400 is also too cheap for him, I think.
All right, moving along to our next one. It's your hometown team. They were snowed out, Jake. Snowed out. Did you still have some snow on the ground this morning?
We still have snow. It'll melt in the next couple of days, but
can you see the grass, or is it the grass all covered?
We cannot see the grass right now. It snowed like 3 or 4 inches on what was that, Thursday? So yeah, I'm like 20-30 minutes away from the Twins Stadium. So yeah, fun stuff.
It's going to be cold. You'll probably want to wear a jacket if you're going to the game today because it's going to be 37 at first pitch. We have a little bit of a wind in the 6 to 9 mile an hour range going out to right field. Another team with a relatively high implied run total. The Twins have a 5.1. They're going behind Michael Pineda. On the other side, you have Tyson Ross, who put together a phenomenal start, yet still did not have his underlying metrics were not good, but he laid down a monster, as they say. This is a little bit tougher here, and I don't think Vegas is buying into anything because they do have a 5.1 implied run total, which is a little bit higher than I would have expected considering how damn cold it's going to be. So for this one, I'm only really looking at one-off hitters on either side, and then we've got sorry, somebody sent me a message there. We've got Ross and Pineda. I'm okay with them as SP2s just because we've got to go somewhere. I think the weather is going to help out both of them, being that it should, in my thoughts, not make it fun hitting conditions. But we've seen them be gentle with Michael Pineda. In the first start he had where it was cold, I think he had 50 pitches. The last start, he was on the East Coast, so he got up to 80. So I think he's good for about 60 today. Would be my guess, Jake, just because it's so cold and they don't want to have him with this myriad of back injuries, hamstring injuries, rib injuries, etc. Tyson Ross on the other side, he's 6,700 on DK, so that's about all the analysis I have on this one.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn on what to do with Pineda because, like you mentioned, he was back up to 80 pitches last start. He was at 40 his first one, and he was doing really well through 4 innings. And they pulled him, and they cited, I think, the cold weather. So this is going to be similarly cold, if not colder. So if you think he's going to be at 60 pitches, and we've got him as being really, really chalky, I think he was right behind Snell on DK on the early slate. Yeah, just under 50%. Then anyone who's going to throw 65, or even like if he was limited to 80 here, I would be really concerned even playing him for under 8K because things just have to go so perfectly for him to kill you in tournaments at that ownership. So I don't know, at 47% or whatever we have him at right now, I think I'll be pretty comfortably under that, even though it is good weather. Just unsure how deep he's going to go, and I'd rather not be on the chalky side of that, if that makes sense. Ross at 6,700 on DK, I think is definitely in play for me. I'm not getting to a ton of him right now, but I'd like to get to some of them just because I want to target this cold weather, and he's not going to be owned very heavily at all. So I know the Twins, they have the 7th highest swinging strike rate. They are above average in chase rate as well. They are also, they are first in chase rate so far on this young season. So Ross can miss bats when he's on. When he's off, he's completely terrible. But hopefully that cold weather gets a little bit more bite on his pitches, and I'll take a shot on him at 6,700.
All right. On to our next game. I see you're wearing your Cubs shirt. We have the Halos, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, heading into the Windy City here, going against the Cubs. No Mike Trout. He may not be back till Monday. He may end up going on the DL. We also have no Albert Pujols because there is no DH. Chris Stratton will be batting, which now gets us down to Cole Calhoun, Justin Bour, Andrelton Simmons, maybe, and Brian Goodwin. The problem is Kyle Hendricks, while he is never exciting with his 20% or less strikeout rates to righties and lefties, doesn't allow a lot of home runs, relative amount of soft contact for him. With regards to him, just there's no strikeout upside, but I just don't think this is that daunting of an Angels lineup. It's going to be, 50 degrees here at first pitch. If I was looking to anybody, I guess I'd look to those lefties. But putting the Angels lineup in perspective, Jonathan Lucroy, yes, that Jonathan Lucroy who's been on, 4 teams in the last 5 years, is batting cleanup. I think that's all you need to know about the state of the Angels. You've got Chris Stratton going on the bump here for Anaheim. He was much better as long as he could pitch in Oracle Park. He's not pitching in Oracle Park today, and the Cubbies are carrying a 5.4 implied run total, and they're putting out essentially their best lineup possible against righties. What do you like from this game?
I always talk about Hendricks and how I only like to play him if he's going to be kind of cheap and unowned on a kind of so-so pitching slate, and I would think that all those apply on DraftKings specifically. Under 20% ownership, it looks like right now for Hendricks. I can deal with that. He's not a high upside pitcher, I don't think ever. But you're looking for like the 7 innings and 4 strikeouts game.
And I'll even let him have 3 earned runs and still be happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, good chance for a win. No Trout in the lineup, obviously enormous. I have a feeling he's going to get chalkier and chalkier as people start building more lineups. So keep an eye on his ownership as it continues to update. But yeah, it seems like about as safe as you can possibly get for Kyle Hendricks and against this just brutal lineup that the Angels are rolling out. You see Bour over 23% K rate. Calhoun against righties, 25%, going back to the start of last season. Goodwin's up there as well. Stratton, you get the pitcher spot as well. So maybe not a ton of K upside. And Hendricks isn't a big K guy in general, but you should be able to limit damage here, right?
Yeah, and that's what I would think, and that's where he's in the conversation. And then the question becomes, is his safer floor worth giving up the upside that Tyson Ross has available to him? But Tyson Ross could also go negative today. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's a very real thing for Tyson Ross. But
all right, looking at the hitters, Rizzo, Javi Baez, Descalso leading off is intriguing. Let's see what he is priced around the horn here. Come on, computer, don't freeze on me. So you get the lefty-righty matchup with him. He's 3,400 on FanDuel. That's not a great price, but not horrible for leading off in that matchup. 39 on DK, a little bit better. 73 on Fantasy Draft, and then 11 on Yahoo. So perfectly fine spot for him. On FanDuel, when you are considering it's just the 4-game slate, I'd probably look to him early in my lineup builds. Heading to our next one here, that which, by the way, that takes care of the 4-game slate on FanDuel. We are now moving into the 3 o'clock games. This is where we get to talk about the Snellevator. He's the Cy Young winner. He's going against the Toronto Blue Jays, who have not really intimidated anyone. How much Snell is too much Snell today, Jake?
Yeah, I think if there's ever a time to maybe think about lock buttoning someone, it would be an underpriced Snell in a good matchup. I know the righties might somewhat scare people away or keep his ownership under 70%.
And we're projecting 50 on DK for him right now.
I still think he's a better play than 50% ownership at this price.
Yes.
Last 2 games, 22.6 and 22% swinging strike rates, with chase rates over 35% in both of those starts. This is just kind of an epic run going back to the start of last season. He's one of the best, arguably the best pitcher in the MLB, or at least in the American League at this point. So yeah, 10-7 is a ridiculous price. Even with all these righties, he can strike out righties with the best of them. I'm not worried about the splits. If he gives up a couple runs, you're not even going to be killed at this price. I think he should be over 12K on DraftKings, and he's just not there. So where are you at on him?
I want as much as I can possibly get in my lineups. I don't think I'll cap him. I will make sure I'm over the 50%. I'm suspecting it's 70 to 75% range on, and I'm just playing DK this morning.
Yep, I'm playing DK as well. So on FanDuel, assuming he's not like some outrageous price, and I'll look at him right now. 12K, okay, that's still probably an okay price. Just knowing how FanDuel's hitting prices work. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you can only play Snell on the all-day slate.
Okay, on the afternoon only.
The afternoon only is 2 games. It's Colorado, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, and Washington.
Why would they leave that game off the slate?
I don't know, because the best part about FanDuel's all-day slates, all they run is ticket contests. You wonder why you're the number 2 side in fall.
Yeah, Yahoo on the up and up. Assuming FanDuel keeps down this path, and they're more focused on sports betting, I think, at this point, which is understandable. But kind of sucks when you're trying to play multiple sites for DFS.
Well, the other 44 states that don't have sports betting like to play DFS when they can. So, anyway, all right. Enough about FanDuel. Literally, enough about FanDuel. On the other side here, we've got. Let me get back to this. We've got Clay Buchholz. He did go in the minor leagues for a start. This is his first appearance in the show this season, but he has had a couple moments the last 2 years, but he's not the former guy that threw the no-hitter and was decent there in his stretch with the Red Sox. So when looking to the Rays, they have some surprising power. Austin Meadows had a double dong game. I believe that was yesterday. Brandon Lowe did 2 or 3 days ago. And then Yi-Min Choi also has some excellent power. And then Tommy Pham. Buchholz has been closer to reverse splits in the more recent past. And Pham is excellent against same-handed pitching. So, and then Yandy Diaz. Some days he bats 4th. Some days he bats 7th. He's batting 4th today. He's got a lot of pop in his bat. So I actually don't mind looking at Tampa Bay here if you want your differentiation stack. I think even though they're carrying that 4.7 implied run total, anybody that's hand building or not using an optimizer is not going to be clicking on these names, I would think, Jake.
Yeah, and as an aggregate ownership, they're around 5%, which is one of the lower ones. It's in the bottom half on the slate out of the 14 teams on DK. So yeah, I agree with you. Like Meadows coming off the double dong, maybe he gets a little bit of increased ownership, and same thing with Brandon Lau. But both guys, I think, priced appropriately for the matchup. I really like him as well for 4,500, so I'm glad you mentioned him. And then Avisol Garcia, I think he can hit same-handed pitching really well. So for 3,800, I think you can get to a pretty easy 4 or even 5-man stack if you are not a Buchholz believer.
All right, love the alliteration there, Jake. Warms my heart.
What was the alliteration?
Buchholz believer.
Buchholz. Oh, okay. I didn't even try to do that, as you can see.
Buchholz believer. Brilliant. There you go.
I like it. Yeah.
On the other side here, I think it's a fool's errand going after anybody for Toronto. As you mentioned, yeah, Snell's probably going to have 2 or 3 just shitty starts this year. Find it hard to believe it'll be this one, but I don't know that we'll be able to pinpoint when it will happen.
He's just so good too. Like, you know, the thing with Snell used to be that he would just have these, like, he just couldn't find the zone, and he's just not doing that the last year. So he's just taken that basically out of his game, and hopefully I don't just jinx him right now, but Like, he's not doing this thing where he's walking 3 guys in an inning and just getting himself into a lot of trouble. He's just mowing down everyone. And, he'll have a walk every once in a while, but like, they just can't hit him at all. The swinging strike rate is outrageous.
All right, let's see here. We've got our 4 o'clock games, of which we have a pair. It is the Colorado Rockies in San Francisco. You've got Kyle Freeland at 8,200. You have Madsen Bumgarner at 9,200. Bumgarner, not exactly the same mad bum that he was before the bike wreck and whatever other ailments have been plaguing him for the last couple seasons, but he is getting a little bit better. I still don't think he's $9,200 good, even at home. Against the Colorado Rockies. The last year, the Rockies had an 87 WRC plus, which is weighted runs created plus, which is an advanced metric that neutralizes ballpark factors, creating a league-wide baseline benchmark of 100. So 87 means they scored/created 13% less runs than the average team did in the same situation. Now, that takes out home road splits, that takes out a lot of the ballpark noise, etc. So just if they played in a completely neutral park, they would have had the 20th offense last season. They also had an 87 WRC plus in 2016. That would have been the 3rd worst offense in the entire league. So just saying, the Rockies outside of Coors Field are not that daunting. This is the best pitching park in the league, as evidenced by the 7 combined run total here. You've got Blackman, who's fine against lefties. You've got Hampson, who he had a nice game yesterday. I was watching part of that. I believe he had like a stand-up triple or something like that. I was flipping between the last few games of the night. But Arnaud story. But I'm not going to be that worried about him. The hard part of Mad Bum is the 9,200 price point on DK. I'm only looking to these guys on that 2-game 4 o'clock slate, which, hey, I've only got 4 pitchers and I need to take 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just at this price not a guy I'm super excited to target. I think he's kind of over the hill and has been for maybe the last year and a half or so, maybe even before the bike wreck a little bit. So I think I'm more likely to get to a guy like Arenado and Story as sort of leverage plays. Off the top of my head, I don't think Bumgarner 30% in one of the updates. I think we have one update since, but he's going to be owned for sure at that price. I have a hard time seeing how he kills me, even though Colorado isn't great outside of Coors Field. Like you cited the numbers last season, there's still a couple really tough matchups, Arenado and Story. So I will be playing a good amount of those guys and even more now that I'm seeing increased ownership for Bumgarner.
All right. On the other side, Freeland, solid pitcher, absolutely fine. Of course, it's not in Coors Field today. And this lineup here, the projected lineup anyway, for the Giants is just, it's not that scary. You've got Kevin Pillar, who's hitting out of his mind right now. You've got Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford, who are decent in lefty matchups, but they're another year older. It feels like they've been playing forever. Along with Buster Posey. So these guys are all on the downward slope of their career. And then you got Evan Longoria, a noted lefty masher, but he's no longer Evan Longoria, face of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Yes, I said Devil Rays. But none of these guys are overly scary. Anything, of course, can happen on the 2-game slate. I'll be having a little bit of everybody just because you're trying to find that one lucky combination that will take you to the promised land. But I don't really want to target the hitters here. I'd rather go take the $1,000 discount with Freeland than going with Madsen Bumgarner. And I'm just seeing wow. So Freeland is 13%. Wow. So he's about half of what Bumgarner is. Actually less than half on DK for the early slate. So definitely I would prefer Freeland just based on the leverage opportunity there as an SP2. Although I guess he'd be kind of the quote co-SP1s. But you can still make an okay lineup with Snell and him in it.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the Snell lineups that I have with Freeland, and it's looking really, really, really good. So he's going to be the guy that I'm going to have probably the most of, maybe after Snell, or he's going to be a top 3 owned pitcher for me. Freeland, I'm talking about. I think like this is the perfect place for him to pitch. So he does a decent job of limiting damage in Coors. Maybe he got a little lucky last year, but he can miss bats at times. You see the 6.6% swinging strike rate in his last start. That was against Atlanta. So basically any start against like Atlanta this season, I'm kind of just expecting a pitcher to have pretty poor numbers in that department, low chase rate as well. San Francisco is way, way better of a matchup for Freeland, and he's fine against righties. He's going to see a couple, maybe up to 3 lefties here, plus the pitcher spot. I know Bumgarner is a decent hitter, but still, I am really excited about Freeland on this early slate, and he's probably my favorite guy after Snell.
Shout out to Thomas Tyner in YouTube Slack. I hadn't realized because I went to bed in the 11th inning when I finally dried my tears from my crappy night that was happening. The Giants and Rockies went 18 innings last night.
So their bullpens have to be taxed, right?
18
so they need
innings. I'm just looking. So the Giants had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pitchers after Pomerantz. And the Rockies had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gray got up and didn't pitch, so they had 10. Oh my God. So everybody pitched once. So that, to me, I'm not as worried about the bullpen, but maybe we get to see Freeland and Bumgarner have a good shot at going 7 today. That's how I would kind of look towards that, because they've probably got some long reliever floating around there, and nobody went more than 2 innings outside of Vincent. So for the Giants, and they've got enough other arms that somebody can go back to back here. Mm-hmm. But just food for thought there. God, I'm glad I went to bed when I did. Because
yeah, I saw some people this morning when I was looking at Slack talking about the game just ending. And I think the tournaments were still live, and I woke up at like 6 my time. So,
I did the same thing. I was up taking the dog out because my wife's gone. So the dog, of course, wakes me up when it's time to go outside now. And I was looking at my phone, going, "Why haven't the baseball games cleared? What's going on?" And I thought there might be a tie game where they said for sure they'll finish it tomorrow, and they would keep the contest open, because I can never remember the different rules on the sites. But holy hell, 18 innings! That's pretty funny. E-Rush, do we keep up with MLB? How do you not know that Colorado and San Francisco went 18 innings? Well, I put together a 1,000-word article for you guys, did a solo podcast last night, broke down today's slate. I've got another thing coming out a little bit later. So yeah, I did miss that one.
I'm pretty transparent. I don't watch a ton of baseball at this time. There's NHL playoff hockey. I play MLB DFS, but at this time I'm not watching a ton of it because there's just better stuff to watch, and frankly, just need a break from watching sports every once in a while, right?
Exactamundo. Plus, we got the NBA playoffs starting today, so I've been doing some work for that. But yes, I did miss the 18-inning game. Moving on here to our Nationals Pirates, the other 4 o'clock game. You've got Chris Archer coming off his respite/suspension. So he's 1 day off of what his normal rotation would be. So that's not a big deal at all. You've got Anibal Sanchez on the other side. Intriguing option here at 6,500. He is kind of a splits neutral guy who has changed his pitching approach over the last season and a half, and has limited his walks more and limited hard hits, home runs, extra base hits, etc. So that's encouraging to see. He's 6,500, so that keeps him in the conversation here as an SP2. The Pirates do strike out more than they have in prior seasons, but they're still a little bit below league average. But we do have their lineup. Top 4 is about to be expected, but you've got Colin Moran, Cabrera, the Milkman, JB Shuck, Eric Gonzalez in their bottom, in their 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus the pitcher. That's not a scary lineup here. We have, 73-degree temperature here, but the 4 o'clock game, I don't think we have too much issues with weather. Do you like Sanchez? Do you like Archer going against the Washington Nationals that no longer have Bryce Harper, Daniel Murphy, and Trey Turner?
I'm kind of on the Washington side for everything here. So I think Archer is probably an okay play here. 8,500 is a fine price for him. And like you mentioned, maybe a watered down lineup, especially near the bottom for these Nationals. But I still have some of their hitters grading out okay, especially Soto. I think Soto is a really, really awesome play if Archer is going to have ownership. And then I'm seeing Anibal Sanchez's ownership at like 10%. Like, I think that's way too low. He's had 2 starts against Philadelphia. Like, that's one of the toughest pitching matchups in the MLB. I think right up there with like Atlanta and Boston.
Hey! Seattle Mariners lead the league in scoring. Come on now, wait. Let me.
I mean, there's a no. I mean, but in all seriousness, I think that's a really, really tough lineup to even survive against. And he went 4 innings one time, bunch of walks, 4 earned runs, 5 2/3 the next time out, 3 earned runs, 6 strikeouts just 5 days later against that same lineup. So all things considered, I think he did a pretty decent job in his 2 Philly starts, as good as you would expect for a guy that's, he's not perfect. He's not even very good, but 6,500 I think is a good price. Maybe not a great strikeout matchup against Pittsburgh here, but yeah, I am going to be way overweight on Sanchez here.
You're on the ball with Anibal. There you go.
Exactly.
So I think those are excellent points here. This is going to be kind of a fun slate here. So we got an hour and when did these start? They start at 10 or 5. We got an hour and 5 minutes here to get through the rest of these games because Jake and I both registered and we're going to be building our own lineup. So we'll hit these other ones here. We sort of have a tweener game here. The Philadelphia Phillies, Miami Marlins. This is only on the all-day slates or showdown slates. It is a 6:10 start. So just hitting it briefly, you have Zach Eflin. Has his moments. Not really excited for this all-day price of 9,100, even going against the Marlins in Miami or in Marlin Park. On the other side, Caleb Smith, talented, electric stuff. Was sad to see him get shut down, hurt at the end of or middle of last season. He has not yet quite recaptured his form, and this is not a place I want to take a chance on him doing so against the Philadelphia Phillies. My exposure will be limited. Wait for it, Jake. For my head-to-head season-long lineups, where I am streaming Caleb Smith through as a starting pitcher today for one of my limited transaction moves. But that's it for me on this one. I think Smith is tough enough that this isn't the best spot for Philly, and conversely, it's the Marlins. Sorry, it's the Marlins. I mean, Eflin's a little spendy, but I don't want any of the Marlins.
Yeah, so I haven't really looked at this game much. I just saw that Smith was starting. And I just don't really think you need him if you're playing an all-day slate, which is basically the only way you would be able to play him here. Like I mentioned, Philly, I think, is one of the toughest matchups against either hand this entire season, assuming they have Harper and Segura and McCutcheon, all these guys, Real Muto, Hoskins. Like, that's a really, really tough top 5. And then you've got Odubel as well. So I don't know. It's just – I don't really see the need to get to Smith. I think he's ultra talented. I think anybody that's watched him pitch this last year or so can see that. So 8,300 just a little bit too steep for a guy that I love, but I just don't think you really need to play him. And then I don't really have anything on Eflin either. So yeah.
All right. So we've got the late slate here, or the main slate. We will have live before lock at 6 o'clock tonight, breaking these down. Shout out to Cincinnati, who has given us the only confirmed lineup already. I bet Cincinnati's one of those teams that will probably, if you said, hey, we need your confirmed lineup for the next 5 days, they'd be able to do it because they know exactly what they're doing, and they have their 2 platoon guys that they really do not change from. And now that they don't have to figure out, is Billy Hamilton going to be leading off, batting 7th or batting 8th, it's relatively static here. So you've got Adam Wainwright and Tanner Roark here. I wanted to call out, let's see, I wrote up this as one of my stacks, recommended stacks and spotlight hitters for the main slate. That's a free article you can get on the Osmo.com homepage there. But I said we've got a 12 to 15 mile an hour wind blowing out to left center field in the Great American Ballpark today. And though he has been respectable through his first 2 starts this season, the 37-year-old Wainwright has racked up a lot of mileage on his arm during his 14 seasons, and he is nowhere near the pitcher he was between 2009 and 2014. Wait for it. when he was a top 3 vote getter in the Cy Young 4 out of those 5 seasons. That he was so good back then. His fastball, this is the concerning part. His fastball is down 2 to 3 miles per hour compared to what it was in the early part of the last 2 seasons. It is topping out, or it is averaging 88 and topping out barely into the 90s. Not
Yikes.
good times there. Not good times. So you got Votto, Puig, Suarez, Schebler. Those are your main guys. Dietrich, depending on your side of choice, particularly Yahoo and FanDuel, he's a better price there. But those would be the guys I'm looking for in this matchup here. From the Redbirds, I'm going to assume we get Carpenter leading off. So he will be, of course, a crown jewel in lineups. Paul Goldschmidt is absolutely elite against righties, just as good as he is against lefties these days. And then you've got Marcell Ozuna, Paul Double DeYoung. Both those guys have great power against fellow righties. Tanner Roark is an adequate pitcher. He is perfectly fine. He is a 3.5 starter. He's better than the 4s. He's not quite there to the 3s. Tougher ballpark for him, but I don't think he's really going to contain the Cardinals here, and the 16-mile-an-hour wind going out to left. Oh, shoot. You want to know what temperature is at first pitch? This can't be right.
90.
90.
That's
I
crazy.
need a second source. Holy cow. You have snow, but in Cincinnati, it's going to be 90 degrees, Jake. There we go. 70. That's an error. It's looking like 70 at first pitch.
Oh, okay. That'd be pretty great.
Well, that's why I wanted to check, because that was not what I was envisioning. Because how far away is Cincinnati from you? I mean, it's only a couple hours, right?
I honestly don't know. It'd probably be like a 5 or 6 hour drive at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. But in any event, it's not 70 degrees. But give us your take on both sides of this.
Yeah. Just quickly, I don't really have much interest in either pitcher. I kind of agree with what you said on both of them. Decent hitting weather. Looks like, is there still wind blowing out, or is that an error as well?
I'm double checking that.
Okay. But I mean, good park, regardless if it's going to be 70 degrees, whether or not there's wind. There is a ton of talent on this Cardinals roster. So Carpenter is leading off. We just got that confirmed. And then like you go Goldschmidt, DeJong, Ozuna, Molina, 2 through 5. Like, I think that's a really fun stack. So I am getting a bunch of them on my first couple crunches. In fact, they're my highest owned team. St. Louis was, and Cincinnati was number 2 without any cap. So that'll change a little bit. But yeah, I really, really like both sides of this for hitting.
Yeah, interesting. It is not 90 degrees, and there's not a 16-mile-an-hour wind. It is going to be 70 to 72, as we mentioned, and it looks like there's a 4 to 9 mile an hour. So, our competitor's a little off on that.
Yeah.
The lineups page that I'm looking at. They shall remain nameless, but that's all right. Let's see. Hitting onto our next one here. You've got Jeffrey Rodriguez. Didn't he pitch for the Nationals? In any event, you get Jeffrey Rodriguez going against Homer Bailey. Bailey's been relatively adequate considering who he is. Cleveland is not the same lineup that they have been in years past, particularly with Francisco Lindor on the shelf, along with Jason Kipnis. No Michael Brantley, no Yonder Alonso, no Edwin Encarnacion. Good God, that's half of their offense no longer with. We're looking at, I was making fun of Tyler Naquin, and he ended up with the home run last night. I always thought he had good power, and I was looking at his stuff, and I'm like, dude, he doesn't really have that great power. And then he hits a home run. But going against Homer Bailey, all these guys are in play, as is Bailey at 5,800. On the other side, I think you can say damn near the same thing about Jeffrey Rodriguez, just because of the price play here at 6,700 as an SP2 on DK. Is there anything standing out in this particular game, since we don't have lineups or anything?
Just from an ownership perspective, I was trying to see. Yeah, okay. So I figured Homer Bailey would look chalky. That's not something I think I really need to get into, even with Verlander on the slate. So that's the reason why you're seeing Bailey near 50%, and that'll get updated. Maybe it drops to 30 or so, or even like 25. I'd rather not be on him when he's going to be super chalky, and it's still a decent total against him, despite this not being a great Cleveland lineup. So I'd be more likely to play Jose Ramirez. I know he's slumping quite a bit, but I like Bowers and Santana as well. And with dual position eligibility for Bowers, you can play all three of those guys. You mentioned Naquin. He's actually a guy I've liked. So we've been on opposite sides of him. I think you've been more right if you have said he doesn't have a ton of power, because he hasn't really shown it all that often in the majors, but he's a guy that I will stack. So as a leverage play, if Bailey's even close to like 30%, I really like me some Cleveland bats.
All right. Heading along here. Let's see. Oh, gosh. Still got another 6 to go. Mets, Atlanta. Jason Vargas, tough row to hoe going into Atlanta against Albies, Donaldson, Freeman, Acuna. Dansby Swanson has had a nice little season, and Johan Camargo. I'm sad that he's outfield only on a couple sites, but he does have a guy with pop in righty-lefty matchups. On the other side, you got Sean Newcomb. This is a revamped Mets lineup. It is much more formidable than we have seen in years past.
EMAC.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick. That Cincinnati game is in. Are they saying that's in Mexico?
I was trying to look that up.
Okay, yeah, it is. That's what the chat's saying. So we missed that.
Jeez Louise, I can't.
So maybe it is 90 and wind blowing out.
You know what's funny?
Theater-friendly park too. If it's the same one they've been playing at for a couple years.
It is at elevation, but it's actually, if I'm remembering correctly off this, it's at elevation, but it does have, it's like major league outfield dimensions. So it's probably similar to Coors Field. How did I?
Elevation is only about 1,000 feet, but so not necessarily Coors, but better than no elevation at all.
Interesting. I wonder if they went to Mexico so they wouldn't have to celebrate Pete Rose's 77th birthday tomorrow. Just throwing that out there. Interesting. That's rewrite that little section there on my Stacks article. Thank you, chat, for pointing that out. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure there probably are some messages yelling at us that we're not paying attention, but all good. I remember me and Josh had this issue a couple times last year when they went over and did this early in the season.
Yeah, I thought they usually didn't do it until later, but there you go. All right, but back to the Mets Braves. You've got a 10-run implied total here. I think I'm siding with the Braves on both cases. Tread lightly with Newcomb. With the addition of Ramos, Alonso, Robbie Cano is just fine in lefty-lefty matchups. This is a tougher Mets lineup, and we want to treat it appropriately.
Yeah, the Mets have been frustrating for me. I feel like I've been on the wrong side of them when I stack them. They kind of disappoint when I've been on the pitchers against them. They've really made me pay that way as well. I think the most important thing here for me in this game is not the Mets bats. I do respect Newcomb quite a bit, even though it is still a decent total. I think Newcomb is fine at 8,700. And then Vargas is a guy I want to attack with these Braves bats. Like, talk about a lot of balls put in play here, and he's a guy who gives up a ton of hard hits over the last year or so. So all the normal guys, Acuna, Freeman, Donaldson, Albies, I think is a pretty good place to start for the Braves. But honestly, I think you could play anyone basically 1 through 8 if Flowers is going to be in the 8 spot.
Right, I'm just looking. So this is a 2-game set in Monterrey, Mexico, today and tomorrow between St. Louis.
Okay.
Because I was going to say, God, if they had played there, yeah, and I don't think the other thing that's kind of unique this season that we haven't seen, like, damn near ever in baseball. Not all 15 teams, or not. There's not always 15 games on Fridays anymore. With the way they're doing their schedule, because of the different starting the season, the extending and tweaking what they're doing with the MLB All-Star break, etc. We've seen it multiple times here already that there hasn't been a full complement of teams. So anyway, I'm guessing travel day for those guys. But sorry for missing that.
I mean, I missed it too. So Don't worry,
I'm
chat.
not apologizing to you. I'm apologizing to chat because I am more humble than anybody else. All right. Wait, I'm bragging about being humble? That's not being humble.
Exactly.
Okay, a couple games to go here. One weather game here. This would be potential for some showers in Texas. It's cooled off. It's going to be in the low 50s at first pitch. You've got 90% chance of rain, 75 to 85% humidity. You do have some wind blowing out to right field. But we've got Marco Estrada and Adrian Sampson, some fly ball action here as long as it does not get postponed. I still have interest in the bats. Rougned Odor was a late scratch last night. I think we got the news at like 8:01 for an 8:05 lock. We'll have to see if he's in the lineup tonight. So just be cognizant. If this lineup is coming out a little late, it's probably because they're trying to figure out if he's going to play or not. This is, of course, fine matchup for him against Marco Estrada, Joey Gallo, and also in just an amazing matchup. I don't hate Nomar Mazara because he can just do a little bit of everything. On the other side here, Chris with the K Davis has just been phenomenal. All he does is hit home runs at this stage. You've got a lot of extra power up and down this lineup in Chapman, Piscotty, even Simeon, Profar, and Loreno can run into him. So this is an intriguing game for me. I'm just concerned about the weather. I would have written this up as one of my featured stacks if I wasn't concerned about the postponement.
Yeah, so it looks like the guys behind the scenes are also pretty concerned about the weather. So, of course, that's going to be something to keep an eye on in the projections on the site. We do have a postponement column, so you can see what percentage chance they think, Alex included, thinks that the game will be postponed. So right now, the number is not 0. So keep an eye on that if you are a premium member. I'm sure it'll change as the day goes on. But regardless, as long as it's, somewhere around 50-50 to play, or at least it is on the site, I think that I'm okay taking stabs at both sides. So maybe you don't want to take a ton of one-offs here, or maybe you want to game stack it or something like that. But this game is kind of too juicy for me to pass up on. And I'm hoping the postponement risk keeps the ownership low because it won't be too tough to take advantage of some low-owned guys in really awesome spots. And if I had to choose just one side, it would probably be Texas, just because Estrada's giving up so many fly balls. Hopefully Odor back in the lineup. I think that'd be a really good spot for him. But like guys like Asdrubal Cabrera and Gallo, of course, at 5K, I think make for really, really awesome plays, assuming this game can go.
All right. So, I just got a text from my wife. Shout out to her. She just completed half marathon 99.
Wow.
In her career.
That's awesome.
That is. She's in Kansas today running one. She's doing that, trying to get a marathon or half marathon in all 50 states. So I think this is state number 38. So shout out to her. Big celebration there for number 100 in May. Yeah, it's next month when she's going to do it in Martha's Vineyard.
Unreal.
I am, of course, the trophy husband who stays at home.
There you go.
Watching sports, taking care of the dog. 3 games to go in this never-ending slate. We've got the Pod Squad, the Diamondbacks. Roof is open through Sunday. 83 degrees here in Arizona at first pitch. You've got Matt Strom, the lefty, going against Merrill Kelly, the righty. Both still unproven commodities here. I'm siding a little bit more with Merrill Kelly, but the roof being open means there's also no humidor in effect here, so that could be a little bit tricky. These are not terrible Padres, but they haven't really done a lot of ass kicking yet. I'm sure that's coming at some point here, but their lineup is they don't have any holes in their lineup. Let's start with that. As long as Tatis and Myers are healthy, they're good. The upgrade of Manny Machado is going to be big, but it's still Manny Machado, who's, what does he have? 25 home run power, and Hunter Renfroe, who's got 30, 35 home run power. That's really it for their power bat. So they're not too scary, but if they start stringing stuff together, they have a lineup that's built to turn over. Jake, and that is the one concerning thing here. So I mean, it could be an abbreviated outing for Kelly if they can get it going. I'm still willing to take a chance on him as my SP2 or potential co SP1 if I'm not going to be working in Justin Verlander. We'll get to him in the next game. But what do you like here, or what are you concerned about with regards to Strom or Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, Kelly coming off just a sick performance against Boston. 8 innings, 9 Ks. And that was Sunday afternoon, so maybe it didn't make a big splash in the industry, but I would expect him to garner a little bit of ownership, even with the roof looking to be open here for Arizona. That hurts him a little bit, but that'll probably keep his ownership in check. Going to get a bunch of righties, it looks like, and guys that will swing and miss like Renfroe and Myers. And I'm assuming Tatis Hedges, I know, has a big K rate against righties. So I'm good on taking a bunch of shots on Kelly, actually. Anybody that can do that against the Red Sox. I know they had been cold, whatever that was, going into the last Sunday, but still impressive nonetheless. So for 8,500, he's priced up a little bit. I am going to be there. And then I kind of want to play Strom. I just have the Arizona lineup not being that great or not being that bad of a matchup, actually. So the total says 9 here, but I'm kind of on both of the pitchers, it looks like.
I think that's a reasonable take. With that, with AJ Pollock's not with the Diamondbacks anymore. Goldschmidt's not with them anymore. They still have reasonable players, but those guys being replaced by Adam Jones and Wilmer Flores respectively, that's downgrades for both positions there. I mean, Flores, he's fine against lefties, and I do like his power upside. He hadn't really shown it for the last nearly a year now, but I do like him better, much better against lefties than I do righties. And Adam Jones is just fine, but their lineup tails off towards the end. I mean, J.R. Murphy is fine, Nick Ahmed is fine, Christian Walker is fine, but they're not going to be that scary. So this is probably where we're going to look at our SB2s, Jake. And as you pointed out, based on our ownership, we'll probably be checking in. We will get a couple guys that are going to be under the field, would be my guess.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at these guys right now, they are at Kelly's at 16%. I can definitely deal with that. And then Strom is virtually, or no, he's not. I have the name recognition wrong. I think he's at 8% though.
Okay. Moving on to 2 games to go. Two game night slate here. We've got Justin Verlander going against Felix Hernandez. In the other game, you've got Zach Davies and Caleb Ferguson. Caleb Ferguson is coming out of the bullpen to make a start. This will be a bullpen day here because Ryu is not making his start. So Ferguson is gone. He's made like 6 or 7 appearances. He's gone about an inning each time. I don't expect him to go more than 2. And it wouldn't be a complete shock if he just went 1 in this one. But I'd like to think since they're putting him out there, he's going to go 2. On the other side, you have Zach Davies. So the reason I'm bringing this up is you're going to see on the late game slate a bunch of people taking the Dodgers against Davies, and then a bunch of people taking the Astros against Felix Hernandez. The one thing I wanted to point out here for Felix Hernandez is when he's pitching at home, they have what's called is the King's Court, and it's down the right field side. Yeah, I think it's the right field side. And so what happens is each time he has a start, they have a designated area there, Jake, where if you buy a ticket in that spot, it comes with the T-shirt, and then they stand up and cheer every time Felix is pitching. Like, it doesn't matter if there's 2 strikes, balls, 1 strike. They're just saying they hold up signs and just chant K, 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 K for King and for strikeout. So he gets jazzed up to pitch at home. Now, here's a guy who's hanging around as maybe a number 4 or 5 starter. He got demoted to the bullpen last year. Not the same guy that he was between 2006 and 2015. So in that 10-year stretch, he didn't pitch fewer than 190 innings. He averaged 218 innings, and he topped 230 innings 5 times in that 10-year stretch. So his arm is toast at this point, but he still does everything he can at home. So I only call that out because yes, the Astros are most definitely in play, but this is one of those where if he could scuffle along, and his upside is probably a quality start, but I'm thinking more 5 innings, 4 earned runs, not really getting his ass kicked, but not really, doing any favors for the Astros. I just want to point that out because I think overall the sneaky team is going to be looking to the Brewers going against the bullpen of Los Angeles. And
Yeah,
Los Angeles has a good bullpen, and they're going to run through a bunch of different guys that are going to go 1 or 2 or 3 innings. But I think that's going to be the overlook play. So the reason I'm discussing these two games as a group is not really excited for either outside of the Dodgers, I guess, in the main slate. But on that 2-game night slate, which of course I will be playing because I subscribe to the play all slate theory, you're going to want to be a little bit different. And it's pretty clear where the crowd is going to go on this one. So just wanted to show that it could be a little bit of a bear trap there with Felix Hernandez.
exactly. No, I think I agree with you on like the late slate. I think he makes for a fine play because you're getting so much leverage, and people are going to play all these Houston bats with Verlander. So I like that for like a late slate play. For a main slate, though, I don't really think I need to get to him. Like I'd rather go to Strom for $200 more. I think there is real upside there. Whereas with Felix, you're going up against a team that, yeah, they might have a lot of righties, but these guys just don't really strike out. So good situation for Hernandez to get you. I mean, decent chance he gets you like 12 or 13 BK points. And even if he gets you like 10 on that late slate, that might be enough if Davies gets blown up. So yeah, I like him on the late slate. On the main, like I said, I just don't think you really need to get to him. But I'm also not super pumped about Houston bats on the main slate either. So I will say that.
All right. That's kind of wrapping it up for us here. Again, we're going to have live before lock where we'll have all the starting lineups in theory. You're missing one or two where they're holding some hope out for Bregman and or Odor to start. But remember, those games go off at 8 and 9 o'clock. Lock is at 7 tonight for the main slate, so we'll probably know what's happening at that point. For those of you that are behind the paywall here at Osmo, you're going to get some fast Eddie Fear NBA video action here in a little bit, breaking down the slate. That's if that doesn't get you into the Osmo premium side of things, I don't know what will, because I've poked around today. There's not a lot of NBA playoff content out there. For NHL playoff content, pretty much you, Jake, by the way. It's pretty much you.
Yeah, so I'm actually doing a show here.
Our big orange and blue competitors do not have NFL or NHL playoff content whatsoever.
Yeah, they're missing out, man. These games are way too fun. I know it's not like everyone, plays this or whatever. The contests are smaller for an already a niche sport. But yeah, like we've had success these last couple days playing NHL these last few days. So I know people
up until last night. I did. I rocked it those first two slates. Yeah. So, and that's me. I'm not a full-time NHL player. I play about 50 slates or 50 days a year. So
right, and so I'm going to be playing it out. I'll play the showdowns. I'll do all that. So I'm doing shows for him, and we've got a nice group of people in chat that are super helpful. And the good thing about the short slates too is that we can kind of dive into everything and go on all the box scores and check who's shooting the most, which lines performed well, but maybe didn't perform that well on the raw stats basis that you can take advantage of, because we're literally seeing the same matchups as we did 2 nights ago with all 4 of these teams. So
yeah, and so I just throw that out. We also have MMA projections, big MMA fights tonight. NASCAR is tonight. Can't remember if it's 7 or 7:30, but they're in Richmond. We have projections for that, both player points and popularity, or as you guys like to call it, ownership. So we've got you covered here, a lot of everything. So it's going to be a fun day, a busy day. We'll be around in Slack. You will get the deep dive article. I don't remember if it's Adam or Laffy today. Adam's down there in Miami at the FanDuel event, so a lot of times they'll swap days, but you'll get that from one of them. So that'll be dropping in a couple hours, and you got that free stacks article and spotlight hitters on the homepage from your old pal. So with that, gamers, we're gonna get on out of here. Oh, lest I forget, office hours. So we'll have we've got in the Slack, we've got our buddy Phil is going to be there for 90 minutes before lock, breaking everything down. Plus, we have some sharp guys. Hat tip to Legalized in the premium Slack, who gets fired up about every sport, but then continues to crush NASCAR. So stay in your lane, literally, there, pal. Stay in your lane. But I always like to see what he has to say. We got a lot of sharp people there, and then you're going to get Jason Roslin tonight breaking down the single game slates on Sunday. I haven't looked at them yet on DK, but I do know that they did have a single game tournament today with $100,000 to first. I can only imagine what it's going to be tomorrow. There, Jake.
For golf, they did?
For golf, single game contest.
Dude, they might have a milli maker. It's
not quite enough time to fill it up, but it's all eyes are going to be on that on Sunday. So check it out. We got you covered pretty much everywhere. With that, you can follow Jake at Jake Hari on Twitter. I am at EMACDFS, and it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.